allegations that were purposely kept out by the government. So he's frustrated with that, but look, he's got tremendous equanimity, and he's handled this well. I know that everybody's thinking, well, he's been convicted of these horrible crimes. Why should anybody care about him? Well, we care about him because we care about our system of justice here, and we want the right thing to be done. And that's really that's why he felt he had to say those words today. He appreciated his treatment by the guards in the MCC. They always were gentlemen to him, and that's important too, because not everybody's always treated him so well.
What do you think would be a fair outcome of this, given the charge that he was facing?
Look, a fair outcome was a fair trial. That's all we wanted. I never came here, to tell you after a conviction that perhaps the decision wasn't the right one. All I said is I wanted a fair trial, and that's what every defendant. I don't care if you're charged with jaywalking in the Bronx, you deserve a fair trial. It doesn't always happen in America. You saw it happen yesterday with the Eric Garner case. This is a guy that was choked in broad daylight by a police officer and killed over loose cigarettes, over nothing, and this office decided not to bring charges. So you'll forgive me if I don't have the utmost respect for how they handled this case and their desperate efforts to avoid a hearing. All we want is justice. That's all we wanted. That's all anybody wants when they come into these hallowed grounds. And that's exactly what we should expect. I think it's $12.7 billion. I don't want you to short anybody $700 million. But it's a fiction. It's part of the show trial that we're here for. They've been looking for his assets for how long? Decades? They've found right now, before they get to $12.7 billion, how about they get to $1? When they get to $1, wake me up. Right now they're at zero. So I don't know that we're really ever going to see anything with that. It's a fiction. We all know that. It's part of the show. It was magnificent calculation. It was wonderful. The number of trees that have been felled to allow the Eastern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office to put in all their thousands of submissions, and that it took me about a month until after the trial that every night at 11:58 p.m. every night now for a month after the trial, I'd wake up in a cold sweat because I was waiting for the 60-page submission that would come every single night like clockwork. My alarm is set for 6 o'clock in the morning, and my internal alarm was set for 11:58 p.m. because every single night we'd get a whopper of a submission from the government that we had to read and digest and respond to before the next jury day. If there's no assets, I don't know, maybe he could write an IOU. If there's no assets, there's nothing to pay. The government knows this. It's procedural. It's a fiction. Perhaps. I don't know. I mean, look, Emma is, obviously, she's crushed by this. This has been an incredibly arduous situation, not just as his wife, but as the mother of his two beloved children. His kids are innocent here. And this has been an incredibly compellingly difficult thing for them. They have to see their father in a very small, locked room where they don't get to have any physical contact. The kids are not allowed to hug their father. Look, and I don't want to suggest for a second that I don't understand some of the government's security measures, but these are, little girls that just want to hug their father, and they're denied that opportunity and have not hugged him in years. Appeal is being filed. Here's the walking and talking embodiment of the appeal. Mark Furnish will be handling the appeal. And there are significant issues here relating obviously to the motion for a new trial, the extradition issues, the curtailment of cross-examinations that I've never, in a case in 28 years of practice, have I ever been curtailed as much as I was in this case. But I understand, I get it. This was an inquisition, this was a show. We needed to show the world that we do things better here in America in terms of the justice system. You saw it yesterday with the Garner case, and again, I would say you saw it today with the Chapo Guzman case. It's not always better. We're not always exceptional. We're the best in the world, but we're not always exceptional. Any other questions? That's it.
I'll figure it out. I'm confident I can handle both.
I mean, look, this is what we do. People, a reporter said to me yesterday, is, do you get to pick and choose the cases you have? Why aren't you careful with who you decide to represent? Well, there are a lot of lawyers that told me not to come into this case. There are a lot of lawyers that told me not to come into the Gotti Jr. case. There are a lot of lawyers that have been telling me for years not to come into cases because you need to be more careful and protect your career. You know what? We're here to live on this earth one time. Fuck that. I'm here to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm here to try cases, and I'm here to give people their constitutional rights, and I'm sorry if it offends some people. But I'm just here to do my job, and I'll do it until my last breath.
What we're here to do is represent individuals and make sure they get the most vigorous and zealous defense possible. And we're here to make sure that those rights are afforded to them so that every one of us, we're here to make sure that the rights the Constitution guarantees the worst among us, the alleged worst among us, are afforded to each and every one of us, and we're here to defend individual clients, whether it's Jeffrey Epstein or Joaquin Guzman. The same rules of play should apply to anyone who walks into an American courtroom, from the richest to the most notorious to the lowliest. That's what we're here to do, and that's why I can represent a Jeffrey Epstein, a Joaquin Guzman, and anyone else who's charged with a serious or even a minor crime.
Thank you.
The prosecutors criticized Chapo for not expressing remorse. Does he feel remorse?
I don't know that today's the day for remorse. They want him to express remorse because based on their trial where they said that he was guilty, you know what? Maybe they should express remorse for not giving a hearing in a case in which half the jury cheated and lied to the judge. So respectfully, I don't know what they expected today. Would remorse have changed the statutory minimum of life in prison? Of course not. I don't know that. Why are the rules different for Joaquin Guzman? He wanted justice. That's what he was mourning today, his lack of getting justice. Thank you.
We have major issues for the appeal. Some of them were fronted today, obviously. The inhumane conditions of confinement that were opposed in this case, and it interfered with his and anybody's ability to present a defense. And he's presumed innocent. That's one of the things that sets our country apart from any other country. No matter how bad the allegations are, no matter how infamous the defendant is, he came here presumed innocent, just like every one of us standing here today. And as a pretrial detainee who's been convicted of nothing, he was subjected to conditions that, let's face it, are a functional equivalent to a living death penalty. Now, that's not justice in the United States of America, and that's in no way the kind of justice that the framers of our Constitution ever contemplated. That will surely come up on the appeal. Mr. Lichtman has eloquently explained to you the really troubling way this new trial motion was handled, with very serious and facially credible allegations swept under the rug just to preserve a verdict in the name of expediency. Because as Jeff said, the hearing in this case would have been very ugly, and God knows what it would have revealed. And let's be clear about this. These allegations, these factual reports that this juror made on their face say they're just the tip of an iceberg. So to this day and forever in history, this verdict will be clouded and stained because we don't know the full extent or the truth of what happened here. But we know it's very serious, and we know that on pain of criminal sanction, this juror came out and said that the entire jury, well, that's too much, a great number of members of this jury panel lied to the judge's face. And if the head stinks, you got to throw out the fish. And this jury smells based on the allegations, and you've got to think seriously about throwing out the body, which is the verdict. And we didn't get a chance to do that. And that's very troubling, and it's not in keeping with the way we do justice in this country.
And that's right. And I'll leave it as this, is that you can bury Joaquin Guzman under tons of steel in Colorado and make him disappear, but you're never going to remove the stink from this verdict due to the failure to order a hearing on the misconduct of the jury in this case. I hope it's going to be, 60 days we asked for so he can work on the appeal. I don't know that he's going to Supermax. I presume it, which is, actually maybe a walk in the park compared to what he's been through right now. Thank you.
Soy José Luis González Mesa, abogado del Chapo Guzmán en la Ciudad de México, encargado de él y de su familia de lograr la repatriación a México en virtud de la serie de irregularidades en la entrega a las autoridades norteamericanas. Quiero informarles que hizo buena defensa el abogado Linkman, pero si ustedes se enteraron, la defensa del propio Chapo fue extraordinaria. Se quejó de tortura, se quejó de pisotearle sus derechos humanos como procesado, como prisionero, porque finalmente el Chapo Guzmán tiene la presunción de inocencia. Y hablando de tortura, señores, el presidente Trump le acaba de negar una visa humanitaria a una anciana de 92 años. Es lamentable, es ruin, es inhumano, es anticristiano, es antijurídico, es anti todo el prohibirle a una anciana que nunca ha pisado los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica y que sus 92 años se los ha pasado en un pueblo de la Sierra de Sinaloa, cuidando de su familia. Es campesina, es ejidataria. Y esto viene a corroborar la tortura psicológica a la familia de Guzmán Loera, del Chapo Guzmán. No se le ha permitido a la esposa ver, a la última esposa, a la señora Emma Coronel, ver a su esposo. Y nosotros ya iniciamos en México, ante el presidente López Obrador, la repatriación del Chapo Guzmán, insisto. Y insistimos, la fortuna del Chapo Guzmán, lo que sea, $1, $1,000, lo que sea, se generó en México. La siembra, el cultivo y la cosecha de la amapola y la marihuana se llevó a cabo en México. El dinero del Chapo Guzmán no pertenece al gobierno de los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica, pertenece al gobierno de México. Gracias, señores. Gracias.
Everybody needs to be behind the barriers now. Everyone. Everyone needs to be behind the barriers. You can't wait here. You have to be behind the barriers. Everyone, no exceptions. Everyone has to get up and move behind the barriers now. Everyone has to go on out to the side. No exceptions.
¿Tiene un caucho? ¿Tiene un caucho? ¿Tiene un caucho? ¿Tiene un caucho? No, así es mejor.
Nothing in front here. Is everybody set up?
No.
There's not going to be any questions. There's just going to be some statements made, and then that'll be it. The first speaker, the first speaker is going to be Assistant Attorney General Brian Benkowski. He'll be followed by the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, Rich Donahue. I'm just telling them who the speakers are. You have the email already. The U.S. Attorney from the Eastern District will be followed by the U.S. Attorney from the Southern District of Florida. After the U.S. Attorney from Florida, it'll be Angel Melendez, Homeland Security, followed by Tim Foley, the DEA, followed by Michael Driscoll, FBI.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Foley, Foley, the Drug Enforcement Administration, Associate Special Agent in charge. first speaker is going to be Assistant Attorney General Brian Benkowski, followed by the U.S. Attorney from the Eastern District, Rich Donahue, followed by Ariana Fajardo-Orshan. She's the U.S. Attorney from the Southern District of Florida. Angel Melendez, Homeland Security Special Agent in Charge, followed by Tim Foley, Drug Enforcement Administration, and then the last speaker will be Michael Driscoll, FBI, New York office. Okay, you guys all ready? They can come out? Okay. One, two here. Rob. Then we'll go over there. Gather around.
There we go. Great. You ready? Good morning. My name is Brian Benchkowski. I'm the Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. The long road that led Chapo Guzman from the mountains of Sinaloa to the courthouse behind us today was paved with death, drugs, and destruction. But it ended today with justice. Mr. Guzman thought for more than 25 years that he was untouchable, that there was no problem affecting the Sinaloa cartel, that he couldn't bribe, intimidate, torture, or kill his way out of. But thanks to the hard work of the men and women of federal law enforcement, the offices of the individuals who are standing with me and behind me, justice was done today for the American people. Today's sentence is the culmination of a tremendous partnership and a tremendous amount of hard work between the Criminal Division's Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs Section in Washington, Rich Donahue's office here in the Eastern District of New York, U.S. Attorney Ariana Fajardo's office from Miami, the DEA, HSI, FBI, and our foreign law enforcement and prosecutorial counterparts around the world. I am tremendously proud and grateful to stand here shoulder to shoulder with these men and women and the offices that they represent. Today brings a measure of justice for the American people. It brings a measure of justice for the country of Mexico, whose institutions were corrupted for decades by Mr. Guzman and the Sinaloa cartel. It also is indicative of the fact that the federal government, the United States Department of Justice, our federal law enforcement counterparts will not rest ever, ever in the face of a threat like Mr. Guzman and his cartel. We will bring you to justice if you pump hundreds of thousands of tons of cocaine and other drugs into our country. We will find you, we will extradite you, we will prosecute you, and we will bring you to justice. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Rich Donahue, the U.S. Attorney for Brooklyn.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning. I'm Rich Donahue. I'm the U.S. Attorney here in the Eastern District of New York. Minutes ago, in the courthouse behind me, United States District Judge Brian Cogan sentenced Joaquin El Chapo Guzman to life without the possibility of parole, plus 30 years. This sentence is significant and it is well deserved. It means that never again will Guzman pour poison over our borders, making billions while innocent lives are lost to drug violence and drug addiction. We cannot undo the violence, misery, and devastation inflicted on countless individuals and communities by the drugs that Mr. Guzman and his organization inflicted on our country for more than 2 decades. But we can ensure that he spends every minute of every day of the rest of his life in a prison here in the United States. The same fate awaits anyone who would seek to take his place. I want to thank our outstanding prosecution team from the Eastern District of New York, Assistant United States Attorneys Gina Parlavecchio, Michael Rabati, Patricia Natopoulos, and Hyrule Mehta, as well as Assistant United States Attorney Brendan King, who is handling the $12 billion forfeiture proceeding. Paralegals Huda Abusher, Melissa Bennett, Eileen Rosado.
Watch out, guys. Watch out. Back up. Back up. Everything's all right. Back up.
Give us a little room. Let it be.
Come on. Watch out, guys.
Just give us a little room.
Watch out.
Okay, sorry, Charlie. Relax. There you go. Come on.
Yield.
I got it.
Okay, one second. Yield.
I'd now like to turn the microphone over to my colleague, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Ariana Fajardo.
Thank you, Rich. My name is Ariana Fajardo. I'm the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. I will give just a brief statement in English, and then for the Spanish media, I will give a brief statement, or attempt to give a brief statement in Spanish. Today's life sentence really has a profound impact in our country. This is the only sentence that can be given to somebody who has spent a lifetime poisoning the streets of our community. This was not something that could be done by one person. As I looked around the courtroom today, I was very much impacted by the number of agents and prosecutors that it took and the years and decades of evidence that was gathered to bring this sentence today to its culmination. The impact of today's sentence can't be overstated. The world has now been rid of the brutality of the Sinaloa cartel leader. This is very important for us, for our community, and for our government. I want to thank all of the agents and law enforcement that were able to bring out the evidence that came out in this case. Because of them, their decades of work, we now know, and the world now knows, who El Chapo is. He is a drug dealer that would do anything to keep his nefarious empire afloat. It included kidnapping, it included corruption, it included torture, and it included murder. And the same way that you see us standing here today, we are united, all 93 U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice, and we are here to tell you and tell everybody out there, be careful, because we are going to work together and we are going to rid our streets of these illegal drugs. It may be one case at a time, but we are not done working. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ariana Fajardo. Yo soy el fiscal federal del Distrito Sur de la Florida. Hoy el juez ha condenado a Joaquín Guzmán, conocido como el Chapo, a una sentencia en que él va a pasar el resto de su vida en una cárcel. Esto es muy importante porque él ha envenenado las comunidades de muchos de este país, muchas comunidades en este país. Y eso no lo vamos a aguantar. Hoy, con la sentencia y la condena que han puesto, nosotros estamos libres de la brutalidad del líder de la Sinaloa Cartel. Muchas gracias a todos los fiscales y agentes que han trabajado por años en traer este caso a la justicia hoy. Y le decimos que nosotros, como el Departamento de Justicia, vamos a seguir trabajando para poder quitar todas las drogas de las calles de estas comunidades. Y no vamos a dejar que nadie envenene nuestras comunidades en este gran país. Muchas gracias. En este momento llamo a Ángel Meléndez. I can now call Angel Meléndez.
Good afternoon. My name is Ángel Meléndez. I'm the Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigations here in New York. I'll make some brief comments in English and then brief comments in Spanish. I want to start off by saying it's done. The book on El Chapo Guzman is closed today with this life sentence. Now, when you look at the meaning of the sentence, it's a culmination of decades of investigating and working hard in collecting evidence to be able to eventually prosecute and convict this drug trafficker. There's two stories to this. On one side is the fact that corruption and violence is important for drug traffickers like Joaquin El Chapo Guzman to be able to thrive. On the other hand, we see that the heroics of the special agents, the prosecutors, the detectives across borders who worked so hard for decades to be able to bring this man to justice and provide a voice and some type of justice to the many victims of his actions. This sentence today finally separates the myth of El Chapo from the man Joaquin Guzman. And for the man, it is the end of the line, and it is a reality that he will not be able to escape. En español, culminó. Cerramos el libro, el capítulo de Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán. Con la sentencia hoy, el señor Guzmán pasará el resto de sus días en una prisión federal aquí en los Estados Unidos. Con esta sentencia vemos que la corrupción y la violencia es necesaria para que personas como el Chapo Guzmán puedan llevar a cabo sus actividades delictivas por décadas. Pero también vemos el heroísmo de los agentes, de los fiscales, a través de todas las fronteras que han trabajado por décadas para recopilar evidencia, para llevar a cabo esta sentencia hoy monumental e histórica, porque el señor Guzmán pasará el resto de sus días en una prisión aquí en los Estados Unidos. Y con la sentencia se separa el mito del Chapo del hombre Joaquín Guzmán, y para el hombre es el final de la cuerda y es una realidad de la cual no se podrá escapar. Thank you. And for now, my colleague from DEA, Tim Foley.
Thank you, Angel. Timothy Foley, Associate Special Agent in Charge, Drug Enforcement Administration. Joaquin Guzman, infamously called El Chapo, will be known in history as the most feared drug lord who built the Sinaloa cartel into the most violent, prolific, and powerful criminal organization in the world. Today should be marked in history as the day American and Mexican law enforcement closed the book on the reign of Chapo. I applaud our federal, state, local, and international partners for their incredible collaboration during the hunt for Guzman, his arrest, extradition, trial, conviction, and today's sentencing. DEA's Mexican law enforcement partners are national heroes.
The Mexican Marines are responsible for flushing Chapo from his hideout in the mountains to his capture in Sinaloa, Mexico. It took Chapo a lifetime to build a drug empire, and now he will live the rest of his life in a U.S. security prison. This sentencing sets the stage for American and law enforcement to continue our efforts in dismantling the most prolific drug trafficking organizations in the world. Our collaborative work will be used as a model and solution to bringing to justice international drug traffickers whose poisons have left to the worst drug crisis in U.S. history. This is a message to drug syndicates. If we could put the most powerful traffickers in the world behind bars, anyone and everyone that breaks the law can and will be brought to justice. Again, I thank our partners here and in Mexico and throughout DEA worldwide for their diligent and brave work during this entire investigation. And now I'd like to turn over the mic to FBI Special Agent in Charge, Mike Briscoe.
Good morning. My name is Mike Driscoll, Special Agent in Charge of the New York Criminal Division for the FBI. Today, after many years of waiting, the investigators of the FBI and the many law enforcement agencies represented here with me have witnessed a day that one of the most feared and dangerous drug traffickers in the world will spend the rest of his life in prison. Our country is battling a heart-wrenching and deadly epidemic from the types of drugs Guzman was convicted of trafficking across our borders. We want this case to serve as a warning. We are willing and capable to use whatever resources, to use every partnership available to go after the leaders of these cartels and make them pay for the damage they do to our country on a daily basis. I'm speaking today for the many FBI divisions, the many agents, analysts, employees that have put in tireless, endless days of work on this investigation, and to their foreign partners in Mexico and other locations that have contributed to this day. I cannot possibly sum it all up in one statement here, other than to say we are extraordinarily grateful for their efforts, and their efforts have gone to making our country a little bit safer today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
So awesome. This is the second day in a row that I've been able to just light from my apartment.
jigsaw puzzle up in here.
Great, thanks again.
No problem.
Every now and then there's a gush of fresh air that comes in.
I know, it feels so cool. Air conditioning out here.
When both doors are open.
Looks like nobody else is getting ready for that eventuality.
I know.
So
And I wonder if
we'll just stay around, play it by ear.
a few minutes.
And we should wait until people start going home.